Good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to give everybody another minute to pile in here. All right, let's get started. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Hope everybody is adjusting to the new time okay. Um, got a good group here today, and looking forward to getting some quick Copilot quick wins. So with better business decisions. All right, moving forward here. My name is Brian McCarthy, president of Open Tier Systems. I think I know most of you on the invite list. Happy to have you all here. Joined today by Caroline Appleby, productivity solutions consultant from PAX 8. Caroline is our resident Copilot expert from PAX. Happy to have you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Nice to meet you all, and looking forward to it.
Right. So we're just going to jump right in. We've got 28 minutes here. So how Copilot is changing small businesses. So Copilot, we're really looking at Copilot as adding value across your business at scale. What does that mean? It means it's not just for the people in leadership or management, it's for everyone across the organization. And we're looking at marketing, optimizing market research, tracking campaign performance, creating relevant personalized content, customer client service, simplifying collaboration to respond to customer inquiries, legal, enhancing the efficiency, quality, and the speed of legal work, sales. It's part of what I'm going to talk a little bit about today. Tailoring pitch materials and offers to optimize pipeline and close more deals. And of course, finance, connect your financial data, gain insights, reducing cost, improving profitability. I think that's really the bottom line for everybody. So, all right. Caroline, I'm going to toss it over to you. We're going right into, if you're wearing multiple hats, how Copilot can help.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously Copilot's only been out for about a year and a half, so this data is still pretty fresh, and we'll obviously see it continue to update from there. But we just wanted to show a bit of how Copilot can save you time, which also then in turn saves you money. So 10 hours per week on routine tasks, that's, if you break it down like an hourly wage, quite a bit. And same with, increasing net revenue and reducing operating costs. And then to me, I think the most valuable one, at least to me, is the faster new hire onboarding. I think a lot of us have time to take out of our day to fully train a new hire. So giving them the resources right at their hands to be able to help with that takes a lot of time for people and, allows them to do their actual full-time jobs, because I know we're all doing about 20 jobs. So
I think I'm doing like 4, but that's okay. Awesome. All right. Oh, and you know what? I got to stop for 1 second. I forgot the housekeeping note. Kathleen, you can have a talk with me later. We are taking Q&A. The Q&A is open. If you have questions, you can go into the Teams room here, and there's a Q&A section. You can pop your questions right in there, and we will have some time saved at the end for some questions. So, all right, back to our regularly scheduled program here. Copilot. Okay, we're on the right slide. Copilot 365 keeps your business data protected. So I'll riff a little bit. There's a lot of risk with the free tools. There's good reason to want to use paid Copilot, Copilot 365, Copilot Enterprise, Business. It's essentially the paid version of Copilot, mostly because it's protecting your data. And what I mean by that is if you're using free tools or public models like OpenAI, Gemini, Claude, like all the non 365 type large language models, there's a risk associated with that. Your company data is getting pushed into models that you really don't know what they're doing with your data on the back end. So your prompts and uploads may be used to train their models. The data that's leaving your environment, there's no audit trail. You don't know who's doing what with it. And there's no enforcement of your company's permissions or policies. So, what happens is you have this shadow AI risk. Your team can't control it, and ultimately it introduces legal risks, compliance risks, all various risks associated with using free tools. I mean, we even had it happen here, and we've updated our governance policy. We noticed some people were using Claude, and they were using Copilot, and they're using Gemini, and really just purpose built. They wanted to uh, try these other things, experiment with them, found that some things may be a little bit better than others. And, really, there's no guardrails around that. So, from a governance standpoint, we put policies in place to limit that and make sure that we know which tools people are using. And in our case, it's Copilot, and make sure that our data is not being used to train other models. We're not introducing legal risk, and we're minimizing that to the extent that we can. So, great thing about Copilot is that enterprise data protection by default. If you're using Copilot, anything you're putting in Copilot, you're not using it to train the models. Your data is secure within your 365 environment. It's not leaving your 365 environment. Uh, by default, security controls exist and they are enabled. And yes, they require some tweaking, but there's an administrative panel that's built right into 365 where all the security can be adjusted. There's reporting involved. We recently had the Copilot Olympics here, even though nobody actually knew they were competing, which I thought was kind of entertaining. But we were able to pull all that reporting out of our 365 panel. Full visibility governance, and it's built for work. So we've made a pretty clear distinction. If you're using AI for work purposes, it happens in Copilot. If you're doing anything else, personal or other, you can do that in whatever AI you want, just not for work. So really got to be cognizant. There's a lot of news about who has access to the chats, who has access to the prompts, who owns the work product if you're using public models. And if you really dig into the terms of service of these public models, they own everything. They own your prompts, they own your content, they own the work product. So, and it can be subpoenaed. So you are exposing yourself by not using a private model like Copilot or LLM like Copilot. So, moving along, Copilot in action. So this is where the quick win comes in. I'm going to show you how I used Copilot recently to take a task that would have taken me, I would say, at least 6 hours by my estimates, down to about an hour and a half. So that's huge. I mean, I got 4.5 hours back, and I was able to do a little bit better research with Copilot than I probably would have been able to do solo. So I'm going to share my screen here and take you through it. But essentially, using Teams plus Copilot to perform call transcription, summarization, and initial research post-meeting. Okay. So first step, we had a Teams call with a client. This is a real thing. This happened on Friday. So client came to us to look for a solution for a document management system. It's an ERP system that they're using. They're our only client that uses this particular ERP system, and they need to be able to track some documentation for FDA compliance and their own internal. So first thing we did, turned on Copilot right in the Teams meeting. Even this meeting here, I'm using Copilot to transcribe. So native functionality. I don't have to leave Teams. I don't have to get a third-party transcription. I know a lot of people use Read AI, Firefly. There's a whole bunch of them at this point. With native Copilot functionality built right in, you can grab a transcript. Here's a screenshot at the end of the call. And I blacked out the names here. I have this option. I can just smack that transcript button and grab the whole thing. So there's also AI summarization built right into it. So just that alone really saved me from having to worry about note-taking, slowing down the whole meeting, and maybe not getting all the information. I could focus on asking the right questions, getting all the information, confident that Copilot's recording it, and being able to review that later for research purposes. Because I knew that I was going to use this, I took the transcript and I put it through Copilot in Word and had it scrub the PII. Prompt, go through this document, find any references to personally identifiable information, remove it. Now, what I found was that it caught most of it, there were one or two instances that I had to remove manually. It's not perfect, but did a really nice job. Took about 3 minutes. So we went through the whole document, scrubbed the whole thing. So that was great. Summarize the meeting into a one-page document. If you have a Copilot license, it does this automatically. You don't even have to tell it to do this. So at the top of Word, when you have Copilot enabled, there's a button here. It summarizes the whole thing for you, and you can expand that. I know this screenshot's probably not huge. I can make this. It didn't work too well. So summarization built right in. You don't have to do anything extra. You don't have to prompt it for that. It will just do it. So this is kind of the meat of the whole thing. Having Copilot analyze the discussion and generate viable options. I was very consciously asking a lot of nitty-gritty detailed questions about what systems are already being used, what the use cases are, what the expectations are for the outcome. And really just having that get out there into the transcript so that we could review that later and then summarize that. So what I did was I said, hey, Copilot, based on this transcript, search the internet for 5 potentially viable options. Now, we're not worried about money at this point. I just want to know what's out there, what's available. Only concerned with technical feasibility. Take into account the existing systems mentioned. Append this to the document. Do not modify the transcript. So real short, sweet, to the point. Yes, you can get crazy with the prompts, and yeah, you're going to iterate on it. Again, for purposes of this, I didn't want to go nuts with a prompt. I really just wanted to do just some quick initial research, see if there was anything I already recognized as a viable solution, and then see what other options might be out there that might be viable that I don't even know about that I would have to go out and do research for. So, and I'll show you what it came back with on that. All right. Let's slide this over. This is the actual Word document transcript. At the bottom, based on that prompt alone, that short 4-sentence prompt, that's some potential viability. Distill out the requirements, 5 potentially viable options. Right off the bat, in the call, we talked about Iron Mountain and them having a system. And it came back and listed that as the first potentially viable option. Do I know about this particular system? No, but this is a great starting point. Like, this is where we wanted to start anyway, because the client was talking about using Iron Mountain as their offsite storage facility. So it made sense that they would probably have a product. So we start with that. Then a couple other options that I had never even heard of, potentially viable, of course. So this is what Copilot was able to generate just based on that single prompt. And this summary was generated in about a minute. So a lot of time saving there. I would have had to do the research and go out, start with Iron Mountain, figure out if it's a viable option, then find Access, then find Crown, then find Gimel, and of course, Microsoft and their flexible Power Platforms app. So would I have gotten to all these potentially viable options? Sure. How long would that have taken? I estimate just doing the research, I probably would have spent 2 to 3 hours just doing the research to find these options. Are these all the options? No, I'm certain they're not. Am I going to find more? Absolutely. So really interesting and able to save a lot of time on that just initial research part. But as I was going through this, knowing that I was doing this for this, I was documenting, use Copilot to generate the transcript, come up with these. So I came up with these bullet points, and then I pumped these bullet points into Copilot to generate this Word document that you're looking at, to embellish it, make it more friendly, more readable, and more professional. So I'm not going to use this Copilot to generate. That's not good enough for the purposes of the presentation. So what is my conclusion here? The meat of all this was in the transcription, the scrubbing, and the initial research. Spent about 2 hours between the call itself, the summarization, the prompting, and the research, and the development of this document itself. So I probably would have only been an hour and a half in if I wasn't concerned with this presentation. I think I would have spent about 6 hours all in after the meeting and things like that, and looking for these viable solutions. What I want to note here is, I think probably a lot of people will have this question like, well, if you're just having Copilot do it, what do I need you for? Well, it's a great question. I'm not using Copilot to substitute the vetting process. I'm using it to do the initial research process and go out and find the candidates. I still have to do the work to make sure that all of these options that were presented are even viable and usable. So, bottom line, from an ROI perspective, I get that 4 hours back. Now I can focus on vetting these options instead of finding the options. And with that research time back, I'm going to be able to find additional options that maybe that didn't exist. Um, so really great way to save time. We use this for statement of work generation, I mean, that's a pretty basic use case for us at this point. Doing uh, geez, email generation, Word document generation. Caroline, I'm going to kick it over to her in just a minute. She's going to show us about using it in Excel, pivot tables, and all types of fun stuff. So if you have any questions on this, please pop them in the Q&A and we will answer those towards the end. So I think I said I was only going to talk for 3, but I think that ended up being like 10. Sorry. So,
No, it's great. There's a lot to it, and it's kind of one of those things where, until you get the tool, you don't, fully get to see all that all that it has. So I'm going to kind of take a different side of this where I'm using the Copilot chat feature within my organization. And the first thing I want to point out is that at the top, there's going to be work versus web. So as Brian kind of pointed out, is if you want it to stay within your organization, you would have it on the work settings. That means that any documents I upload or anything like that is just going to stay in my ecosystem. If I put it on the web, it's anyone's. They can use that data for whatever they want. You can also, if you really want to get nitty gritty, block people from uploading documents, things like that. So you can get more, granular on that. But in this scenario, I made a hypothetical little survey. So I think a lot of us, you have customer service surveys. So you're a hair salon, you say, hey, how is the greeting? How is my service? How is the scheduling? What have you? And that gets sent out. I made one for 120 people that took this survey. And sorry, I'm typing. And essentially, I don't have time to go through that document. To be honest, I don't have time to go through 120 lines of what this document is. But my leadership has asked me, hey, please come up with how we can improve, what we need to, what works, what doesn't, things like that. So I just throw this right in Copilot, put the document, just said analyze this in here, and it's going to give you a full breakdown of everything that was in there. So maybe you didn't even build the survey and you're just the one that's tasked with analyzing it. I feel like that happens all the time of, someone else built this and you don't even know what's in it. So it's going to spit out a ton of different sides of this. So it's going to spit out some charts, what's the response time, what's the satisfaction, things like that. So if you really want to get nitty gritty, you can ask it, all of this. So it's going to spit out all of this information. Was it resolved? Was it not? What was the satisfaction? Things like that. So if you really want to get, deep into this, this is going to be, a really nice way, and it's still going to go. To look at that, and how long would this have taken me to go through 120 lines in a spreadsheet? A ton of time. And I told Brian, I said, I'm not a pivot table master. It's actually, I'm terrible at pivot tables. So I want to ask it to make me a pivot table. How long would it take me to, make a pivot table? Well, I'd probably have to go YouTube it because I've forgotten what I learned how to do it. And then I would, fumble around in Excel, things like that. And this is going to do all of this for me. So it's going to say exactly what, I asked it to do, everything like that. So let's say I want pie charts, make me pie charts out of this. Because I'm a visual person. So I could go in, obviously in Excel, create all this, maneuver it, what have you, or I can just ask Copilot and it will take my data that I have and it's going to make me maybe some pie charts, hopefully, as it codes through this. So then it's going to come up in a second, maybe, with some really nice pie charts. So was my issue resolved? Yes, no, maybe. And then we're going to get, would you recommend? So this is great, overall, just look as, I think it's easier for a presentation as well. If you're looking at, how do you present this data to someone? how long would it have taken you to make all these different pie charts? And this is by all the different sections and things like that. And it will also prompt you if you're not sure what the next prompt you should use. You're not used to using Copilot. A lot of times it'll prompt you, hey, do you want me to do this next? Do you want me to make a pivot table? Do you want me to make a PowerPoint? Things like that. So as it learns what you also need, it will kind of prompt what it thinks that you're going to do next. So in this situation, we have all this data, let's look at it like that. And then let's say I wanted to break this down. Pivot tables in Excel. And now I'm going to have it create me an Excel document with all of the data broken down into tabs of the different pivot tables. That would have taken me hours to do. And then it will also, make it more digestible, just like the pie charts, depending on how you want to view the data and things like that. But if some people have much larger models, you could have 500, 1,000, responses and stuff. And how long would that take you to analyze that data? Probably a long time. I think we're all probably, using the data, things like that. So I will download this, and it's made this right for me in an Excel document. And now I have everything at the bottom. I have all the different pivot tables at the bottom, and it breaks it down by what the raw data was. It's only pulled 20 of them. I did one earlier, and it pulled all of them. So with all the raw data, 120 responses, wasn't going to go through all that. And then you have, what was the contact reason? These are contact reasons. It's our satisfaction, things like that. So it's a really nice way to look at this, and then also go back to, how are we going to improve on this? I think that's always the goal of a survey. So then kind of the last, step of this side of this would, make this information into a PowerPoint. So you have to go present this to your boss. They said, you did this survey. How can we improve? We want to get better at, our customer service. We want to get better at how we're handling the tickets that come in, things like that. So Copilot is going to, while this loads, I did this earlier, so I can show it to you guys so that I don't take up too much time. But essentially, I asked Copilot to make a PowerPoint, and it comes up with this beautiful PowerPoint. We've got backgrounds, we've got whole 9 yards. They got graphics, everything like that. And it's going to put in an agenda, what are we going over in this PowerPoint? It's going to go over what was successful, what wasn't. And then also it's going to go through the analytics. So, our chat experience, fantastic, great. And then let's say our web limitations, not great. Didn't look good on people engaging via the web. If you wanted to get rid of this image and let's say put in that pie chart that we already, took, just copy and paste that right in there. Super easy, super quick. And then you can go to your boss with this, 14-page PowerPoint with clear, concise next steps on here's how we can improve, things like that. And then if, that took me 5 minutes to analyze the data, put it in different, forms, things like that, however you want to view them. And then also create a PowerPoint that I can easily go to, let's say, Brian and say, hey, Brian, here's where we're lacking, here's where we're exceeding. Let's see how we can kind of base what we've learned off of that based on this survey that we sent out to our customers. And then even from here, kind of as Brian showed you, Copilot's going to integrate with everything. So you can also click on Copilot within the PowerPoint itself. So I was using the chat feature, but you could also do it directly in here, load Copilot up, and it's going to pop right up within your applications. Don't know if it will because I'm on the web, but if you're on your actual computer and everything like that, it will load up right in here. So you can take that data and put it right from there if you don't want to use the chat feature as well. So kind of a lot of different, ways to use it, easy kind of digestible things of like, we're all using customer service surveys and then we're all going to analyze them. So, take some of that time off of your plate. That would have taken me a couple hours to do. And it took me, 5 minutes? Now I have a presentation to go to my team with and kind of come up with how we can better the business. So all in all, that's kind of just a general overview of what we're looking at on the Copilot side, just within chat and then also within PowerPoint. So get a nice wide variety of that. And as I said, obviously if you upload the documents within your organization, stay that customer service data that we pull, That's not leaving your organization. That's not going to go out into the public. They can't look at what your satisfaction ratings were or what have you. So that's kind of another benefit of using the Copilot, that paid version. That's kind of all I have on my side on that. I will hand it back over to Brian, and we're going to do, maybe answer a few questions here at the end. I didn't want to take up too much time, so we will leave a few minutes for some questions and also just some call outs on next events as well.
Awesome. Yeah, we got a few questions. We'll get to those in one second. I do want to take a moment to invite everybody here. You may not know, this year is our 20-year anniversary, founded in 2006. So we are having a birthday party of sorts at the Davis Courtside Club at the Finner Pavilion, which is at Villanova University. We would love it if you all could join us. That'll be on April 2nd at 8:30 a.m. Got a fun day planned for everybody. Smack that QR code, RSVP. We'd love to have you all there. So really hope you all can join us. We may get Caroline to join us as well. So,
might get more Copilots.
All right. Yeah. We do have some questions. One question that I saw was, do you need to have consent to have AI transcribe in any state? It's essentially recording. So yes, the other party should be informed. These laws vary state by state. I know some states you do not need to have consent to audio record. Pennsylvania, you do have to have consent to audio record. In Teams, there is a little icon in the top left corner. It looks like like a red O. That is the recording button in Teams and for Copilot. So the answer is depending on the state. Another question, why does AI generate Python code? Do you have access to those? It generates the Python code because that's what it ultimately uses to generate the document. So when it has to make a new document that has pivot tables, for example, it's using Python code to generate that document itself. Do you have access to the Python? You can actually have it generate the Python code for you, and then you can run the Python code if you want. So how do you set up Copilot for your company? So it's pretty straightforward. It's a license that Microsoft offers, and then what we do is we enable that for your 365 environment, and voila, the little Copilot button starts appearing everywhere. In Teams, in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, there's its own app for the mobile and the computer. You can use it on the web. So can embedded Copilot generate PPTs with company logos and styles. Probably the best thing to do in this particular case, because if you're thinking what I'm thinking, is sometimes they don't look that great. What you would do is have it generate a plain PowerPoint and then paste that into your theme if you have that. I am certain that you can build an agent that will have reference document that is your PowerPoint, and that you can have the agent build your PowerPoint right onto that. Do I need to use Microsoft to use 365? Yeah, I mean, for Copilot 365, the benefit is mainly in that you're already in 365 for your email, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, and now Copilot is the addition to that. Thank you, Linda, for the congratulations. And what is the cost of the Enterprise Copilot? So there's a couple different plans now. They are bundling it, and they're having a promotion right now, so it's less expensive. And client success people, Joe, Emerson, Josh, they can talk to you about the pricing because there are several different variants at this point. I think if you're getting Copilot Enterprise, and don't hold me to this, I think it's like $36 a month per user. Yep. And then the Copilot Business, which is their newest offering, is less expensive than that. And you can even bundle that with your 365. Caroline, do you know offhand what the pricing is?
Yeah, so they've kind of changed it. So originally, it was $36 per user per month. That was kind of an unachievable amount for a lot of people. So they've released a business SKU. So anyone under 300 users in their environment is able to use that business SKU. And if you bundle that with, like, let's say Business Premium or some of your Microsoft licenses, it ends up being like $30 for both Copilot and your, Microsoft suite that you're already using. So it ends up costing significantly less. And Microsoft has now release a lot more options. You also don't have to commit to a year, things like that. So that has changed on
Oh yeah,
Microsoft
they
side,
just released a
thankfully.
month-to-month option now as well.
Yes. So if you're not sure and you're like, I don't want to pay for a year, fine, you get it on a month-to-month basis as well. So there's a
Cool.
lot of
And I know
options
we're
there.
over time because I talk too much. The last question I see here is, can people in my organization see my Copilot prompt history? No, they cannot. People can see usage statistics only if they have Copilot administrative rights to the back end. So, Caroline, anything you want to add to that? I think it's a fair
No,
question.
that's the big thing for
Yeah.
me. So
Yeah. No,
it's
what I can see is how many prompts have been submitted, depending on which apps they were in, what the usage and the adoption rate is. So it's a really nice dashboard.
absolutely.
All right. Can Copilot be used with Zoom or other video platforms? Um, right now, I've just been using it in Teams. The third-party apps, they're what you would use to integrate with Zoom or Google Meet or any of those other platforms. So, all right. I know we're a little bit over time. I really appreciate everybody hanging with us, and I think we will end with that. Um, you can definitely get this recording. So if you have people who weren't able to make it today, we can send the webinar recording to them as well. So, and I think Kathleen, correct me if I'm wrong, it will become available automatically by email.
Yes, and it will be posted on YouTube as well for later viewing.
Oh, perfect. Great. Thank you very much. And with that, we'll end it out. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. Appreciate
Awesome.
y'all.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day.